Good evening, everyone. Happy midnight. I'm Adam Natali. I'm the director of SVA Theater, and we are thrilled to have you here for a special. It's so late. Special presentation of The House of the Devil by SVA alum Ty West, director, and producer Peter Phok, also an SVA alum who are here this evening. And before that, we're going to show a special music video by SVA alum Dan Giachetti. So we are thrilled to have them here tonight. Because it's going to be really late by the time the movie's over, we want to do a quick Q&A with them beforehand. So I'm going to bring up current SVA student and your moderator for today, Amanda DiMartino, and Peter and Ty and Dan. So come on up, and we'll get you guys seated over here. And while they're making their way on the stage, I just want to let you know this is a whole weekend of free screenings, and it's all about School of Visual Arts alums, and we do a lot of free programming throughout the year. There are 3 screenings tomorrow, including 10 minutes of the new Family Guy that's not going to air until next week, so if you're a Family Guy fan, check that out. It's along paired with Cosmos. We're going to do a documentary called Thank You for Playing, which is playing all the festival circuits, and then we're going to conclude with a screening of the Emmys at 8 o'clock if you feel like watching it on the big screen instead of a television. So thank you guys for being here, and now to the Q&A.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys? Good. So my first question goes to Dan. Dan, you were the creative director of the music video, and it's very visually appealing. It's beautiful, like the colors and everything. How did you come up with this idea?
The director and I, Tom Rizzuto, and I, we had done the first music video for the Hate My Day Jobs called Mr. Right, and that was this big epic production that kind of went on for a year with all these locations and actors, and it was this it was great, but we shot like 8 hours of usable stuff for a 3-minute music video. So this time we set up restrictions, and we were like, it has to be a 1-day shoot, one location, kind of throughout the narrative a little bit, and that's why we kind of went a little more visual with it. So with those restrictions, I started just kind of thinking about music videos, and I was kind of zoning out one night, and for some reason, this Miley Cyrus video started playing in my head, but it was one that I had kind of made up. It's not really her video, and it was her hula hooping kind of lazily because the hula hoop was actually attached to her, so she didn't have to do anything. And I don't know what that means about me or anything, or why I'm admitting that to you guys, but that's where the idea started. Yeah.
That's really funny. I can definitely see that now. You guys will definitely see that too.
It'll make sense later.
So how did your time at SVA help you prepare for this?
I think the most important thing that I learned at SVA was collaboration and also the critique process. So I think, with the core group of people that worked on it, Tom, me, Jeanette Converse, the stylist, and Ethan Sand, who also went to SVA, the cinematographer, we kind of tried to create an atmosphere where we could really critique stuff as we went along. So every visual was questioned, everything we did was questioned, but in a positive way. Which, when you go to SVA and you sit through like a 3-hour or 6-hour crit class where people just tell you how shitty your work is, you get used to that.
So now I'd like to turn to Ty and Peter, and you both actually went to SVA together, and I was wondering, how did you guys transfer into the industry working professionally together?
A guy named Larry Fessenden. The first year that I was at school, I think I met Pete my second year at SVA, and my first year there was a teacher here named Kelly Reichard, who's a filmmaker, and she had made a movie called River of Grass that this guy named Larry Fessenden acted in and produced. And she would always bring people in to talk, and I thought that was pretty cool. She would bring in like her groovy filmmaker friends. And she just mentioned him, and I had seen this movie called Habit, and I would bug her all the time, like, when are you going to bring him in? When are you gonna? And she was like, dude, like, nobody gives a shit. Here's his phone number. And so I called him, and I met him, and he was a crazy person, and he was great. And we talked about movies, and then I showed him my short film, because he's the only filmmaker I'd ever met in my life, besides from Kelly. And he liked them, and every year I would show him another one. And then when I graduated, I was like, okay, here's the last one I made. And he was like, what are you going to do now? And I was like, I don't know. I'll move to LA, write a script, whatever you're supposed to do. And he was like, well, the only thing stopping you from making a movie was money. What if I gave you a little bit of money? And I was like, well, that's great. I already have a script, which is a lie. And he was like, but you could do it all by yourself. You know people that can make it. I was like, well, yeah. Also kind of a lie. So then I left his office, and I remember just calling Pete because Pete knew how to produce movies. And I was just like, do you think we could figure out how to do this? And then I wrote a script that weekend because I told him I just needed the weekend to polish it up. And so I went home and just wrote the whole weekend. And then I gave it to him, and he was like, all right. Well, that was like May, and he was like, let's see what we can do and shoot it in the fall. And I called Pete, and we figured out how to make it.
So what were your thesis films about when you went to SVA?
What was yours about? I mean, I know the answer, but
Yeah. Mine was called Long and Love Story, and it was a musical that I made. I just decided, like, let me try to make a musical. It was really challenging, but I was really supported by my thesis advisor, Vinny Labruto, and I was just inspired by what was going on. I think Moulin Rouge had come out. Baz Luhrmann is just a director I was really fond of, and I just decided to challenge myself to make that. And actually, because of that, my thesis film, we met our composer, Jeff Grace. He came to a screening of it through IFP, this nonprofit organization here in New York. They had a program called Buzz Cuts, and it played at the old Pioneer Theater, Two Boots screening where you had pizza and a movie. And Jeff Grace came to see it because it said it was a musical. And we met him, and he ultimately became our composer on many different films, including this one.
That's true. I forgot about that. Jeff had worked on Lord of the Rings with Howard Shore and Peter Jackson, and I was just so amazed by that idea. I was like, hire that dude. And so, but now Jeff has done. We just finished a movie. It'll be done in 2 weeks that I just did with Jeff, and that's like our 7th movie together. And that's funny that that's how it happened. On the complete other side of things, my my thesis film was about a werewolf, and Pete produced that as well. And it was like 4 of us made it. It was like Pete, myself, this actor Sean Reed who went to SVA, and another actor friend of mine, and we shot it in Delaware. And I shot it and operated the camera and everything. And we got to Delaware to make the movie, and we stayed at my parents' house and slept on the floor. And it was this movie where these guys, they're like out looking to get a photo of this like supposed werewolf thing, and they do, and then it chases them and kills them at the end. It was like masterful. So we're ready to do that, and I have this location picked out, and it's this great wooded place, and we're all ready to go. And I guess it must have been March or something, and it was like there's these waterfalls. I had this whole idea in my head. We went to sleep, and when we woke up the next morning, there was 12 inches of snow on the ground. But I had already bought all the film, and I remember, I don't know what I said something crazy. Like I woke Pete up and was like, I need you to pretend to be awake for a second so someone can listen to me talk. And I just unloaded all this thing. Like I don't know what to do because there's so much. Like it's a blizzard. It was like coming down, and I was like, I think we should still shoot it. And then we just I think we borrowed my parents' boots and clothes, and we went out in a blizzard that all day long it just snow, and we shot this movie. And then it looked great because it was in the snow. I mean, I didn't even know if any of it was going to come out because it was I couldn't see the light meter, the whole thing. I mean, no one even probably knows what that is anymore. But it was really complicated. It ended up being cool, and it's on the DVD for. Is it on the Roost DVD?
I think, yes.
So the first movie that we made after we graduated with Larry Feston, this movie called The Roost, that short film is on the DVD. So,
Yeah, Prey.
yes, it's called Prey.
So is there anything we have to look forward from you guys coming up, all of you?
I don't know, make another video probably. Yeah, I don't have any plans right now, no.
Yesterday I did the last bit of ADR on a film that we just produced together called In a Valley of Violence. It's a Western with Ethan Hawke and John Travolta. And I go back to LA tomorrow, and I'll mix it this week and color correct next week, and then it is done. So
I had a feeling whatever you said was going to be better than what I said.
well, what we have to look forward to you is something almost immediately. So we get to experience your thing right away.
Yeah, we've been working on that for quite some time. Since our last film, The Sacrament, which is out now, you guys can go see it. When we premiered at Venice, Ty started talking to me about doing a Western, and that happened very quickly. So we shot last summer, and it's been a while in editorial, but we're really excited about finishing it, and hopefully it'll be out next year.
Okay, now we'd like to open up the audience for any questions you guys may have. There's 2 microphones. There's one here and one here. So if you guys do have a question, you can come up to the microphone and ask. We only have time for 2 questions, though, so make it good.
Oh, man. So the question was, what were my inspirations for making House of the Devil? It's a combination of things. I think ultimately what you're asking is what kind of movies, but I'm going to give you some other answer first, which is basically take this for what it's worth. I had graduated SVA, and then nothing happened. I have my, and then I was like, oh no, Like, now what? And in reality, something did happen because I got to make a movie right away. I was very fortunate to meet Larry Fessenden and make a movie right away. But ultimately, I didn't make any money making that movie. So I sold jeans at Diesel. Like, and while I made that movie, and through the next movie as well. So I had a minimum wage job and lived, like I'm sure a lot of you live in New York, in like some sort of extreme poverty reality. And I just thought, oh shit. Like, I'm so happy I made a movie, but like I didn't think far enough ahead on what to do. And so because of that, I just was starting to think, like, this is where you make really bad decisions. Like, when you're desperate, you make poor decisions. And I thought, well, I've always been really kind of into like this satanic thing that happened in the early 80s. There was this kind of like craze in the country that they now call satanic panic. But it was like, there was this time in the early 80s where Geraldo Rivera was always talking about how there's satanic cults and they're going to kidnap you and sacrifice you to the devil. And I always thought that was really crazy because it wasn't true, but everyone believed it was true. And I always thought that really fascinating. So I was always into that. And I wanted to make a movie that took place in one location. And I thought, well, let me try to make it about that. And then let me also make it about how I feel like I don't know what to do. Like, life isn't really moving forward. I'm not sure what to do. And so ultimately the movie was about like a broke girl who makes a very bad decision because she's broke, that otherwise if you were not broke, you would not make such a stupid decision, and then that led to an absurd horror movie. So that's where it came from. But as far as the stylistic choices, I suppose it's probably like the obvious answers, like The Shining and Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist, and there's a movie called The Changeling that I like quite a bit, Don't Look Now, things like that. It's just the stuff that subconsciously I grew up on. But there wasn't a lot of like any sort of reference stuff that I do before making a movie is just for like the art direction. Like and most of it's photos of real life and not so much other movies. So I'll find the wallpapers that I like or whatever. And Jade Healy, who production designed it, has done all my movies and she's great. And I'll send her an email of a ton of photos, and that's generally how I do it.
Do you have any other questions?
Since we don't always do Q&As first, can you each tell us one thing we should look for in the film and in the music video, something that you thought was really cool or we should keep an eye out for or that you loved working on?
Sure. In the making of the film, we used about 4 bags of glitter and confetti like this, and we opened a bunch of bottles of sparkling apple cider and kind of shot them off, and we also thawed out these octopus or octopi, whatever, and their juices kind of mixed with all this other stuff. And at the end of the shoot, which was really long because it was only one day, it had kind of dried into this unmovable veneer on the ground of just glitter and all this stuff, and it was at Tom's workplace, and we had this studio room, and we were like, we need to clean this now because he's going to get fired tomorrow if we don't. And so Artie and I took out mops, and we were trying to mop it up, but this stuff wasn't moving at all. Like, the glitter wouldn't go anywhere. So we went to the janitor closet, and we literally put every single chemical we could onto this glitter. And about 3 hours later, so it was like 3 or 4 a.m., we had finally cleaned up this space. Sort of. I'm sure they're still finding glitter to this day. So the last shot of the video is of the floor, and you should just know how much pain and horror is in that shot. It's a 2-second shot.
I don't know. How many? Has anyone seen this movie? Okay, that's a decent amount. So probably one of the more memorable scenes of this movie is this sort of dance sequence in the movie. I wrote that in the script pretty specifically, and I felt very strongly about it. And then I was too embarrassed, and so was Jocelyn, to ever rehearse that. So we rehearsed like all the scenes of the movie, but we all just kind of collectively ignored talking about that because it was like, what are we going to dance in front of me? But then when the day that we got there to shoot it, it suddenly occurred to me, like, what if she can't dance? And we've never had this conversation. And it's like the moment that the movie turns into a different movie. And I was like, oh, and I just had that, like, I'm a fraud. Like, I had the whole breakdown thing. And I remember, like, I was trying to figure out how to shoot it, and it was just, I was like, I'm really nervous this isn't going to work. And if it doesn't work, nothing ever works in a movie. And so you always kind of have a backup plan in your brain. I had no backup plan because what happens in the dance sequence leads to the rest of the movie. And the Elliot Rocket who shot it with me, we were both sitting on the dolly, and we were, like, lighting it for the scene. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is going to work. And he's like, well, guess we'll just see what happens. And so we set up, we turn it on, action, and then in the first part we shot, she comes in through a door. And so, say action, Jocelyn comes to the door and just does this incredibly amazing dance through the whole house and whatever. And it was like the most amazing like sigh of relief that it's going to work. And I suppose, like you were saying about looking at that shot. When you see that sequence, know that I felt very strongly about that, and then lost all the confidence in it. And then it came through and was amazing. So the point of that being is like filmmaking is very traumatic, and it always feels like it's going to fall apart at every second. And sometimes you just turn on the camera and everything kind of comes together the way you hope it will.
All right, for me, making the House of Devil was really pretty tough. We shot all nights pretty much, like with the exception of like maybe 2 day
Which I love. I was really happy about that.
Yeah, but as a producer, like I have to be up during the day as well, so it's like being up all day and then all night. It's like pretty brutal. And then because I think we were doing a movie about the devil, the movie was called The House for everybody who was involved. It was like because we didn't want like I don't know how people react to being a devil. We're also holding in a church just down the street, so there's a lot of this kind of weird stuff. I think we were plagued with technical problems every day. We shot on Super 16. The camera would just like die on us, so we'd have to like send it back to New York all the time. We shot in Connecticut. But this whole experience, the entire time, we stayed at this place called the Yankee Peddler Inn, which was a really...
The house got struck by, or the tree next to the house got struck by lightning too. It was like one thing, crazy thing after another.
It was just like, oh, what's going to go on tonight? Like, it was just, yeah. But the whole experience of making the movie ultimately led us to the next movie after this, The Innkeepers, because of our experience of staying in this wonderful hotel that had really just character to it. And if it wasn't for that whole, I mean, we'd come home at like 6:30 in the morning and we'll have dinner, like 7 a.m., and do this whole kind of routine. And that whole experience of making this led to the next movie, and I thought that was really kind of special.
I agree. Yeah, it was very hard too. That's very accurate. It was we shot it in like 18 days, and it was brutal.
Well, thank you very much, guys. We appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.